of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Minnesota.
The Twins are in Northern California, where tonight they hope to extend a short winning streak to 5 games. It's game 2 between the A's and the Twins will start this game 4.5 games behind the Kansas City Royals. They won late this afternoon, but of course the Twins have a big lead in the wild card race as well. And good Saturday evening to you from the Bay Area. Dick Raymer along with Jack Morris. July's been a really good month for the Twins. It's looking a lot like the month of May, when the Twins got a lot of key hits, and in the case of last night's game, a couple of big home runs.
Well, the same formula seems to be applying. The Twins scored first. They've got good starting pitching. The pitching went deep, and that's kind of the formula that helped them in May. It's helping him here in Oakland with Brian Dozier leading off the game with a home run, and then the timely hitting of Trevor Plouffe hitting the grand slam. That kind of put the game out of the reach for the Twins. Urban Santana did a great job getting deep, and then the bullpen did their job.
One thing's a little bit different in July. There's an increased reliance on young, inexperienced players, and guys like Eddie Rosario and now Miguel Sano are playing every day. They're contributing to what has been a winning month. Probably not a coincidence that Torrey Hunter is on this team. One of the reasons the Twins re-signed him is because they wanted his influence on some of the younger players coming up through the system, and he's been with the Twins for a long time. Made his debut with the Twins back in 1997, and today he turns 40 years of age. He's in the lineup, and Jackie's just been an extraordinary player for the Twins on and off the field.
Yeah, it's just not because he's a 40-year-old veteran that the Twins signed him. He still brings a lot of energy and a lot of love for the game of baseball. He wants to win, and that winning can kind of rub off on young players. He wants to show them how. I think he relishes his new role as kind of the veteran guy, the mentor-type player. He once was the young guy listening to Kirby Puckett. Now he's that guy that they listen to.
No baseball player is timeless. They all age, but Torrey Hunter has worn his age very well.
I never thought that. In my 20s, I was like, man, I would never play till I'm 40, and here I am today still playing till I'm 40. And yesterday is my last game in my 30s. It was kind of emotional, and last night we were just talking about it, and we got to win, though. We got to win. It's something I'll never forget. Had 2 hits in my 30s, and now in my 40s, we have to see what we're going to do against Kashmir tonight.
Pretty much an everyday player for the Twins, and he's celebrating his 40th birthday. He'd love to celebrate it with a win in Game 2 with the Oakland A's.
Rod Carew is in the midst of his 5th batting title. But the Twins fans are in search for more stars to shine in Twins territory. Unbeknownst to the fans in 1975, a future star was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that would change the history of the Twins forever.
Line to the left, and it's gone! A home run for Torrey Hunter!
40 years later, Torrey Hunter is a household name all around Minnesota.
Oh, what a catch!
He was the cornerstone of the team that revitalized the franchise in the early 2000s. And now is a leader of the current Twins that are making a splash heading into the second half of the 2015 season.
That's how you play a ball game.
Happy birthday, Mr. Hunter. You may be near your final chapter, but your story is far from over.
And as we open up the time capsule, it's just a shame that he's let his body go the way that he has over the years. That tumbling catch you saw a few moments ago was just a few days ago in the Detroit series at Target Field. And today is his 40th birthday. And he and his manager both said last night it was kind of an emotional thing last night. He realized he was stepping out of the 30s and into the 40s, playing his last baseball game as a 30-something. Brian Dozier in the box to get things started here tonight. And the first pitch bounced foul wide of third. Of course, Dozier started the ball game last night with a leadoff home run. The Twins never looked back.
It was a very good, well-played game by the Twins last night. I just want to add one thing on Torrey. His manager, Paul Molitor, played into his 40s, and he was actually teasing Torrey about it's not a big deal. He says, I played 100 and some games after 40 years old. And then Torrey kind of snapped back and said, yeah, as a designated hitter, he said I could play till I'm 50 as a DH.
2 strikes. Dozier tried to bunt the second pitch, and it's 0-2. Twins on a pace to win 90 ball games this year with a 50-40 mark, fouled back. And Dozier, of course, hit the most dramatic home run of the year Friday night. A 3-run home run that turned a loss into a win against the Tigers. Not only have the Twins not lost since then, they have not trailed since then. They led all the way Saturday, Sunday, and again last night, 1-2. So as you look back at Dozier's home run and you think, wow, would that be a home run that might have an impact beyond the game in which it was hit? It certainly looks like that might be the case. And a weak little pop-up and a long run for Laurie, and he can't quite get there. And the catcher, Stephen Vogt, actually had less ground to cover, but I'm not sure he saw the pop-up.
Well, it would have been a very tough ball for Vogt to get to. He's right in the sun, would have been looking right up into it. And that's why Laurie tried to go as far as he could, just kind of ran out of real estate. But talking about last night's game and the effect that it had with Dozier, you know, back in May when they were winning so many games, it seemed like they scored in the first couple innings, and that's the formula that was really working successfully for him, and it happened again last night.
Dozier takes inside. Now it's 2-2. Cashmere's been really good, consistently good. One start stands out, and it was his start earlier this year against the Twins when they scored 6 runs on him in 6 innings. Short left, and Canna comes in, and he can't make the play, and Dozier will go to second with a bloop double. He did not get a quick break on it, and looked like he overreached the ball in trying to make a diving catch.
Well, when you're hot, you're hot. Brian Dozier this time kind of fooled a little bit off the end of the bat. Doesn't really bust out of the box too well, but like you said, Mark Canna, I think he just never saw that ball off the bat. Right now the sun is pretty tough, especially on the right side of the field. The outfielder in right field, center field, the first, second baseman are going to be looking right into this high sky. And for a couple innings until it gets a little later in the evening here, it's going to be a tough field.
Here is the 40-year-old man. And a fastball, a strike.
The way you said that, the 40-year-old man. How about if we say, here's the birthday boy?
Okay. Well, you and I have long ago shot past the 40th birthday, but see what Hunter can get done here, trying to get Dozier at least up to third base. And it's a base hit to left. Dozier had to hold up and he'll be held at third. He wanted to make sure that ball got through. Torrey Hunter's first base hit as a 40-year-old.
Yeah, that took a long time. He was talking about his 2 hits last night at the end of his 30s. Exactly 2 pitches to get into the act here as 40-year-old.
Got a base hit last night that looked just like that one. First and third, nobody out, and here's Joe Mauer.
Great scoring opportunity early in the game here. Joe Mauer at the plate. Torrey certainly has good enough speed to break up a double play.
Off the plate, ball 1.
They're going to try to pitch him away. That's been the tendency with Joe over his whole career, but there's a nice hole with Ike Davis holding on Torrey Hunter at first base. Joe could pull one down the right side of the infield. He easily drive in Brian Dozier.
And a foul back, 1-1. Kazmir 5th in the American League in earned run average. He doesn't give up many hits. Opponent batting average at .215, and so the Twins have a couple quick hits here in the first inning against him. Neither one hit hard. 1-1. And now 1-2. The game that the Twins had against Kazmir, and it was back on May 6th. 6 earned runs, 6 innings. The only start he's had where he's given up more than 3 earned runs in a start.
Yeah, he's got a very good ERA. His win-loss is at 500.
1-2. And a ball driven to the left field corner and back into the seats.
Interesting, though, he's 0-3 with a 4.55 ERA against the Central Division. And I don't really know what that says, other than that you got the Royals and you got the Twins that have played well. Tigers certainly capable of playing better.
And a shorter than normal start against both the White Sox and the Tigers in the month of May. Another 1-2 pitch to Mauer. One hop blocked nicely by Vogt. That ball landed 4 feet in front of the plate. 2-2.
Those balls that are way out in front of the plate are a lot tougher to block than the ones that just kind of short hop the catcher. And that's where you really got to kind of puff up your chest and hope that you present a bigger target to the baseball so that you can knock it down with your chest protector.
2-2. And now 3-2.
Joe having a good at bat here, working the count. Kazmir certainly trying to get Joe Mauer to swing out of the zone, but Joe Mauer doesn't do that very often. He knows the strike zone as good as most guys in the game.
Think they'll send Torrey here?
It's early. The Twins are playing well. It wouldn't be surprised.
Hunter stays put, and Mauer takes ball 4, and they'll be loaded up for Miguel Sano. The Twins with a quick start here with this Menard's batting order. Brian Dozier followed by Torrey Hunter, then Joe Mauer, Sano the designated hitter, then Trevor Plouffe, Eddie Rosario, Aaron Hicks, Kurt Suzuki, and Eduardo Escobar. Sano drew an awfully big walk in front of Trevor Plouffe's grand slam last night, and he comes up with the bases loaded here and nobody out. Of course, wasn't on the roster when the Twins faced Kazmir in May. Inside, ball 1. There is a concern regarding Kazmir. He left his last start with a strained tricep, got 3 innings in, and then came out of the game. We're not used to seeing him litter the bases with runners as quickly as the Twins have done so here tonight. Swing and a miss, 1-1.
Well, one thing about Kazmir, he's always had pretty good command. He's a guy that is more or less a control type pitcher, and he will try to get you expand when he's ahead, but walks early in the game. Not typical for Scott Kazmir.
And he takes a strike on the outside corner and outs 1-2 to Sano. This is where he went to work last night. Fell behind Sonny Gray, who might be the best right-handed pitcher in the league. Got a big walk, and then Plouffe on an 0-2 pitch hit the grand slam. Kazmir in need of a strikeout. Sano strikes out. One away.
Not that it's any excuse, but Shadow's just crossing home plate right now. And anytime that it's in between home plate and the pitcher's mound, it's kind of tough for hitters.
Last night, Trevor Plouffe hit his second grand slam of the year, and it broke the game open.
It certainly did. It was a high breaking ball off of Sonny Gray that was left up. He only left 2 balls up that I could remember in the whole game. Both ended up in the seats. Brian Dozier's home run and Trevor Plouffe's grand slam right there.
Plouffe fouls at the plate, 1 strike. There's one hitter in the Twins lineup that has had great success against Scott Kazmir, and it's Trevor Plouffe, hitting .381 against him. Has yet to hit a home run against Kazmir, and Kazmir doesn't give up many home runs, just 7 allowed on the year, and all of them, oddly, have been on the road. 1 strike to Plouffe. And now a foul, 2 strikes.
Partly in that factoid that you just mentioned about Kazmir not giving up a lot of home runs, he does not center cut home plate very often. He's not going to throw it over the middle and give you a cookie. He's the kind of guy that will hit both sides of the plate, and if he misses, usually tries to miss off the plate, see if your aggression will get yourself out.
Off the plate, 1-2. Kazmir on a short list of Oakland players who might be dealt by the end of the month, and he's got a jam to try to work out of in the game's first inning. Plouffe got a piece on a pitch up and away, and he kept the at bat alive.
An off-speed pitch there that he threw way out of the zone. And you see Trevor Plouffe way out in front, but he was able to keep the bat in the strike zone long enough to make contact.
One and 2. Chopper up the middle to the shortstop, Semien. A double play. The Twins fill him up, but Kazmir pitches out of it, and the Twins come up empty in the first inning. Into the playoff field last year. They led the American League West for most of the year, faded badly down the stretch, got in as a wild card team, lost to the Royals, and the Royals, of course, went all the way to Game 7 of the World Series. The Menards batting order for the A's here in Game 2. Billy Burns leading off, Stephen Vogt, Ben Zobrist, Josh Reddick, Billy Butler, Ike Davis, Brett Laurie, Mark Hanna, and Marcus Semien.
And that lineup will be facing Phil Hughes. Phil's making his 19th start and appearance for the Twins this year. He's made 11 starts and 14 appearances against the Oakland A's. Won his last start against the Tigers. That was his 4th consecutive win. He went 5 innings, and the Twins won the game 9-5.
See his ERA 4.32 this year. That's an important number. We'll talk about that in a second. Burns with a roller to the right side. Hughes has got to hurry, and Burns will beat him to the bag.
Well, that first reaction, you cannot watch the ball at all if you're a pitcher. It goes to your left side, glove side as a right-hander, and you've got to react instantly. You don't know who's going to cover or get to the ball. You don't know if it'll be your first baseman or your second baseman, but you've got to react. You see how Phil hesitated there? That's all it took. That split second when you got a guy like Billy Burns that can get down the line. It just takes too long and gets out of base hit.
A couple of plays last night that we saw Joe Mauer do what he did here, and he did it successfully with a pitcher covering. That was a play that Dozier coming in behind would have gotten to, but even Dozier, I think, would have had to hurry on the slow bounding ball. Here's Burns at first and Vogt at the plate. Strike one.
Yeah, that's got to be instinctual for a pitcher. You cannot expect to react, because by the time you do react, you're kind of watching the ball, and in that case it's in between Joe and Brian, and you've got to bust your tail to get over there.
Ball back 2 strikes. Mentioned that Hughes' ERA 4.32 is significant. The perception is that he's having a disappointing year, or at least not as good as he was last year, and of course that's very true, but he came into this year with a career ERA of 4.32. So in terms of earned run average, he has done this year what he has done throughout his career. It's a pitch low, 1-2.
Well, on the positive side of it, Phil Hughes happens to be the one Twins pitcher that is kind of blessed with the most run support. He's had 69 runs scored for him. Kyle Gibson is second. He's got 54 runs. Pelfrey's 46, May 45, and Tommy Milone kind of at the bottom of the list with 41 runs. So Phil Hughes has had run support, and that's why his record is above 500 at 86.
And by and large, the ERA has gone down consistently in the middle months of the year, although it kicked up a little bit in his last start against the Tigers. 1-2 to Stephen Vogt, all-star catcher for Oakland. And a double play grounder. Dozier flips to second, and over to first. Mauer digs it out. Just the 8th ground ball double play for Phil Hughes, and that takes care of the infield hit. 2 down. Zobrist, the batter. And the Northland Ford defense for the Twins. It has become now an above-average defense. Rosario in left, Hicks in center, Torrey Hunter in right, Plouffe, Escobar the shortstop, Dozier at second, Mauer at first, and Suzuki behind the plate. You look at the team stats, and that's what you find, that in whether it's batting average, earned run average, the old style baseball stats, if you will, that the Twins are just a little bit above average across the board. They're below average in terms of home run power, but now what we've seen, Jack, in July is the Twins hitting a few more home runs, and they had a good homestand in that regard, and a couple more home runs in the ball game last night. Pitches up, and it's 2-1.
Well, we could probably talk the entire game on the different ways to win a baseball game and how to build a team, and, you know, power versus defense and pitching. All those ingredients have a lot to do with it. The bottom line is when you're playing good, it seems like everybody's clicking on all cylinders, and there's just not a lot of how do I say this? There's just not a lot of effort to catch up. You're just doing everything kind of simply and easily, Defense is on their toes. Pitchers are quick in getting to the strike zone. And you get the timely hitting like the Twins got last night. Not a lot of hits in the game, but some big bombs.
2-2. Zobrist has really struggled against Phil Hughes. Zobrist, the bulk of his career with the Tampa Bay Rays, and Hughes, of course, with the Yankees. They faced each other a lot. Zobrist is just 1 for 20 against Phil Hughes. And a little pop-up. We'll see a Plouffe with all this foul territory.
Gotta love Oakland.
An infield hit, but yet Hughes faces just 3 men in the inning.
Twins and A's start the top of the second inning in Oakland. I'm Marnie Gellner. Today is Torrey Hunter's 40th birthday, and he arrived at the clubhouse to find some gifts, including a new mode of transportation.
And when I walk, it actually assists the back and everything, the glutes, and you got to walk. You kind of got to get in character. Pretty cool. You can go left really quick, turn around. You can do brakes and whatever.
Well, it's good that you're embracing it, right?
Well, Torrey, played it up just a little bit, but he also said he's very blessed and thankful because he said when he was in his 20s, Dick and Jack, he said, I would never play baseball when I'm 40. And look at him now.
Thank you, Marnie, and he's playing it quite well. He's got Kazmir pitching to Eddie Rosario, ball 1, and now a chopper to the right side. And getting the second hop, Davis tags Rosario, 1 away. 1 down in the second. Northland Ford defense for the Oakland A's, and man, do they have some issues. Mark Canha in left field. Billy Burns, a fleet-footed, strong-arm center fielder. And Josh Reddick in right. The problems in the infield, specifically left side of the infield. 44 errors between Laurie and Semien on the left side. Sogard and Davis. The right side, actually, Zobrist is in at second base tonight, and Stephen Vogt behind the plate. Aaron Hicks takes a strike.
It's not always about the actual recorded errors either. You look at the way this game started, Brian Dozier kind of a gift double because Mark Canha in left field didn't react to the ball well.
And down low, 1-1.
Anytime you give the other team extra outs, it will come back and haunt you. Leadoff walks always come back to haunt you.
That was the case last night. Hicks on a changeup way out front. It was the leadoff walk to Dozier that set everything up in front of Plouffe's grand slam. 1-2 to Aaron Hicks. He's trying to make it 5 wins in a row. Another changeup and another swing and a miss, 2 down. For Kurt Suzuki bats, it's now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag NorthDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile.
At least one Twins fan in attendance here in Oakland.
Kurt Suzuki with 2 gone in the second inning. Taken low, ball 1. Suzuki hasn't had much success against Kazmir. Just 3 hits and 28 at bats. And outside 2-0.
Look out the field right now, and this was a kind of an early evening game, 6:07 game time, West Coast here, but the sky is clear in Oakland today. And that sun is beaten down. It's almost like a late afternoon game.
Well, the right field corner, Reddick is chasing it, and he's there to make the catch. 5 in a row sent down by Kazmir after a rough start in the first inning. We've got no score. Score as we go to the bottom of the second inning. Phil Hughes kept everything in the infield in the first inning.
Phil Hughes just needs to continue to throw his off-speed pitches and his breaking ball. It's something Neil Allen, his pitching coach, has really tried to stress to Phil, and that his fastball and his cutter have been pretty much the same speed the last year plus, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. In the games that Phil has really struggled with, the teams have kind of come out jumping that fastball early in the game. And he has thrown breaking balls early sometimes, and then he can go to his fastball, and he's had success because not only allows him to stay back, it kind of gets him in his rhythm, and once he's in his rhythm, he's much better, just like all pitchers.
And now a 90-mile-per-hour fastball can elicit a swing and a miss. It looked like Reddick was a little late on it. 0-2.
It's tough for Phil right now. He's standing in the sun, barely can see Suzuki's signs. It's tough for the hitter because the ball's coming in and out of the sun.
And a breaking ball misses. I mentioned that Kazmir doesn't give up many home runs. We've seen Phil give up a lot more this year. Just 16 home runs allowed last year. He's already given up 22 this year. And Reddick takes up high. Hughes has not had a game that he started without allowing at least 1 home run since June 3rd. In his last 7 starts, he's given up 11 home runs. 2-2 to Josh Reddick. And now up high. Reddick, Butler, and Davis in the Oakland second.
Well, the solo home runs really, I mean, they're never good. You don't want anybody to have good contact when you're on the mound, but they don't seem to hurt you near as bad as those multi-run home runs.
Foul back.
Avoid the crooked number. And as we watch Phil, it's always fun for me to watch that center field camera and see the location, see how he's doing and trying to keep the ball. He's a guy that kind of stands up straight in his delivery. He never really finishes off with a bent back, and he's always up in the zone.
Rosario, long run, makes the catch near the bullpen area, home plate area of the bullpen. One down. A couple of foul outs and little pop-ups for Hughes already. Run or skate in the RBC Race for the Kids Minnesota Half Marathon and 5K benefiting Ronald McDonald House Charities Upper Midwest. Saturday, August 1st, the top fundraiser wins a trip for two to Grand Cayman. Well, that sounds all right.
Yeah.
For more details, visit foxsportsnorth.com and click on upcoming events.
I recommend they go in the winter time instead of the summer. Unless you really like warm weather.
Butler takes a strike. And now 2 strikes. I've had games with Roy Smalley. He's talked about the difficulty a hitter faces starting in just a few minutes when the pitcher is enveloped in the shadows and the batter's eye, the green one out in center field, is still illuminated, and it'll be that way for a while here tonight. But once the pitcher disappears and of course the baseball disappears in the shadows, that does make it tougher on the hitter.
Without a doubt, it's a better game for the pitchers anytime there's twilight, anytime there's anything in between. And a high fastball right there. Butler does what Butler's done so many times with that pitch.
Hughes disgustedly motioned with his right hand that he left the pitch up and paid the price.
The tough thing, and it rarely happens, but this particular field is situated in such a way that the sun right now, more than any other time of the year, is tough on the pitcher because he's staring at the catcher and the hitter in the batter's box, and that sun's glaring right in his face. And that's a tough one for the pitcher. Most of the time, this is an advantage, the way the sun is hitting the field for the pitcher.
Ike Davis, the batter, and he takes a fastball, strike 1. Off the plate. Davis, as most of you know, at least many of you know, the son of former Twin relief pitcher Ron Davis, who was the closer for the Twins in the mid-'80s. 1-1. It's down the left field line, a long run for Rosario, and he has no play. Talked to Ike yesterday. His dad's still enjoying the outdoors. Great hunter and fisherman. Yeah. Spent a little time in the boat with his dad, a little time in the field with Ron, who's a pretty good wing shooter. 1-2. He was pitched around a leadoff single in the first. Now trying to pitch around a one-out single in the second. Down and away. 2-2. Ike was born in Edina. Ron had been traded by the Twins already, but the Davises still had a home in the Twin Cities, and so Ike was born in the Twin Cities suburb. 2-2. Hughes trying to get another ground ball hit at somebody. That one is hit to a right fielder. Butler will hold up at second. Just a ground ball with Mauer holding on the runner at first. There's a big hole over there, and Davis found it.
That last pitch, it was a case where a good off-speed pitch really sped up the bat of Ike Davis. And you don't always know when to throw that off-speed pitch, but at least he threw it there and making contact.
News and notes from around the big leagues. Clayton Kershaw with his 7th win of the year. Lorenzo Cain with a game-winning home run, but Kelvin Herrera gave up a run in the 7th, and here's a headline for you. Greg Holland gave up 2 runs in the 9th. And yet the Kansas City Royals beat the White Sox 7-6 and 13. And then you saw Lester with a no bid broken up by Pierzynski. On the outside corner, a strike to Brett Lawrie.
Pierzynski, he's got to be about 45 by now, isn't he?
And still catching.
Yeah. Still in the big leagues.
And LaTroy Hawkins still pitching 1 inning at a time. Into his 40s. 1 strike to Lawrie. And a check swing, strike 2. When Hughes has gotten into trouble as a Twin in innings like this, he's been more reliant on strikeouts than double play grounders. 70 strikeouts in 116 2/3 innings coming into the game today. But he already has 1 ground ball double play. And he'd like to get another one. Up high. And you get ground ball double plays by keeping the ball down.
Yeah. Those are swing and miss pitches that he's trying to get Lawrie to maybe take a hack at a high fastball and swing out of the zone. Pop it up maybe in the infield.
One and 2. Dozier with a nice play. He'll get the out at first with both runners moving up. Sprawling to his left in the dirt, he was able to make a clean catch and an on-target throw for out number 2.
We're getting so used to Brian Dozier on a daily basis making plays like this, but this is a big league play right there. He has to go back towards the grass to have the angle, the proper angle to get his glove on that ball. Then he looks up, sees a speedy Brett Lawrie getting down the line. He has to make an accurate throw, but not an easy play that Brian Dozier is kind of giving Twins fans a hint that this is a ho-hum play for him.
If you want to look at those names and try to predict what might happen in the Gold Glove balloting at the end of the year, I'm not so sure Brian Dozier wouldn't be the favorite over the other second baseman listed. Second and third, 2 down, and Canales to right field, and Torrey Hunter with the catch. Twins had a threat in the first. They didn't score. The A's have a threat in the second, and they don't score. Is presented by Luther Nissan Kia. 2 locations, 1 very low price. By Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by Chrysler. Enjoy your summer in style with great deals at the Chrysler Summer Clearance event. Couple of scoreless innings, and the Twins up at the plate now in the third. Eduardo Escobar takes outside, ball 1. Mentioned that Kazmir doesn't give up many home runs, 7 of them on the year, all 7 on the road. The Twins have 2 of them, Rosario and Eduardo Escobar. He takes a tumble getting his feet out of the way, and it's 2-0. Escobar with a 2-run home run against Kazmir in early May.
As much as I don't like seeing it to my teammates, that was a phenomenal pitch for Kazmir. He made him move his feet.
Hot ground ball right at Zobrist, 1-1. And that'll bring up Brian Dozier. Spend your summer at Target Field. Become a Twins season ticket holder with the new Pick 10 plan. Pick 10 games against the teams you want to see the Twins defeat, and you save off the box office price. Enjoy sweet spot benefits exclusive to Twin season ticket holders, including 10% off game day food and merchandise at Target Field. Call 612-33-TWINS. Or if you'd like, go online, twinsbaseball.com/pick10. 1 strike to Dozier, who blooped a double in front of a charging Mark Canha. Twins got Dozier as far as third base. Had the bases full, in fact, with nobody out in the first inning, but Kazmir pitched out of it.
They've shifted Ben Zobrist now over to the shortstop side of second base. Dozier doesn't have a lot of shifts put on him. There's a huge hole on the right side. The sun now behind the pitcher significantly, so it's going to be easier for the pitcher and the catcher to pick up the ball. I don't know exactly what Roy was talking about. I understand the sun's still hitting the backdrop out in center field, but at least the ball's coming out of the pitcher's hand and going to the catcher's glove without shadows.
Right. 3-1, and Dozier takes a strike. 3-2. Dozier with the bloop double came into the game just 2 for 22 against Kazmir. 3-2. Popped up behind second base. Zobrist running out. And he makes the catch out number 2. We'll bring up Torrey Hunter.
Seems like after Mauer's at bat, the walk in the first inning, Kazmir's really settled in. And sometimes it takes a couple innings for pitchers to kind of find the rhythm out there. Once they do, they tend to get locked in. Phil Hughes doing a good job last inning, getting out of a jam.
Lifted to right field. And Reddick shielding his eyes. Makes the catch. And Kazmir sent down 8 in a row. going to the bottom of the third inning. We talked last night how sometimes for a team the first game of the second half is almost as important as the first game of the first half, and the guy who did such a good job pitching last night for the Twins got his first win as a Twin. Irvin Santana, nice enough to join us, and now you're looking for win number 2. Is that right? We'll get Irvin's mic turned up here in just a second. Congratulations, Irvin, on a great effort last night.
Thank you. It was very good.
Irvin, you've had great success in your career against this Oakland A's. Is there something you can tell Twins fans of why that is?
I don't know. My first team was the Angels, so I faced these guys a lot, so I'm probably very not a little bit about them.
You were telling Marnie Gellner that last night you felt like you'd throw any pitch, anytime, wherever you wanted. Is that something that comes and goes for you, or is that something that you just hope stays with you the rest of this half?
Well, I want to stay for the rest of the season, but I mean, you got bad days, good days, and last night was a good day for me.
There's a called third strike, and Semien is a strikeout victim to start the third inning.
Did you feel like getting the nod to start the second half? It had to make you feel good.
Of course. You get the first game of the second half, and then why not win the first game?
Well, Irvin, you had some early run support. That home run that Brian Dozier hit, what does it do to you to go out there, even though it was just a 1-0 lead, but to throw every pitch you threw last night with a lead?
Well, it means a lot. Every time when we score first, we got advantage, and it's more, as a pitcher, we feel more comfortable. You take less pressure of you being, getting ahead, one run, 1-0, so it means a lot to the pitcher.
Certainly you've been around the game long enough to understand that you don't really face the other pitcher, you face the other team. But talk about what it's like to know that you're going up against a guy like Sonny Gray.
Well, he's a tremendous guy. You see their numbers, so the number he put last year and the number he's putting this year, so he's a tremendous pitcher. So as a pitcher, I'm not gonna face him. That's a good thing. But I'm just gonna face the team, and at the same time, I'm thinking about it. I just trying to go and put 0 on the board.
Irvin, where I was kind of going with that is, that when you're facing one of the better pitchers, you might not get a lot of run support. You were able to hold the A's in check with just 1 run until Trevor got that big grand slam. Does that put extra pressure on you, or you just take it 1 pitch, 1 inning at a time?
I just take it 1 pitch, 1 inning at a time, and I just trying to, like I told you earlier, just trying to get the lead of the inning out. That's one of the key for me.
Irvin, you were very efficient last night, and even as our guest, you're pretty efficient. 3 up, 3 down. We thank you for the time.
Thanks, Irvin.
Go get him next time out. Phil Hughes has a quick third inning. Stanford Health injury report involving a former twin, Francisco Liriano. The Twins faced Liriano in Pittsburgh and knocked him out early, and he had to be scratched tonight with some neck tightness. Liriano's been really good except for his start against the Twins. There's a chance that, and still is, that he'll pitch against the Twins in about a week and a half in the next homestand, but not tonight.
Well, the Pittsburgh Pirates have really played some good baseball, and they need Francisco Liriano in their rotation. It's funny. I used to call those stiff necks Frankie necks, Frankenstein necks. You know, you couldn't move.
So if your name is Frank.
Not the same name.
The Pirates 3.5 games behind the Cardinals. They were not playing well at all when the Twins faced them in Pittsburgh earlier this year. Down and away, 1-1 to Mauer. Mauer ended up drawing a walk that filled the bases in the first. The Twins had a chance against Kazmir in the first inning. Bases loaded, nobody out, but he got out of that jam, and the Twins have not had a base runner since. Fouled back, 2-2.
We talked a little bit about it last night, how you have to take advantages of the opportunities given to you, and the Twins had a golden opportunity in the first inning with bases loaded, nobody out, but somehow Kazmir did his job getting out of that inning, and since then, like you just mentioned, Dick, he's just really pitched well.
And another foul back.
Apparently that stiffness that he acquired last start doesn't seem to be affecting him, at least at this point.
Sano on deck.
Both him and Phil Hughes are starting to hit their spots more consistently. Try to throw a slider away.
Dribbled right side. Kazmir won't be able to get it, and Mauer is going to get an infield hit. A little dribbler, and Zobrist playing back in the outfield grass, unable to get up to the infield grass and make a play. It's a leadoff single. And that'll bring up Sano with a man aboard.
Yeah, you see Joe just roll one over here into no man's land. It gets by Kazmir, and then Ike Davis going back to first base leaves it up to Zobrist. Then it's going to be a do-or-die play for Zobrist, and it died. Joe on with a base hit.
Here's Sano, struck out with the bases loaded in the first inning. Fouled away, 1 strike. Asked Paul Molitor today how Sano's handled the DH role, remembering that for most of his career he was a position player, third base in the minor leagues, didn't DH much. And he said he's handled it fairly well. He doesn't ponder each at bat, whether it's the last one or the next one. Half swing and no swing, 1-1.
Yeah, it's a tough call really to guesstimate, I guess, and that's all we can do because he hasn't played the field at this level, only the one game. And so, you know, how would he react if he was out there and not thinking about his at bat so much?
1-2. So it depends on where he's at home. As his spot in the batting order gets closer, he might go into the tunnel and swing off a tee, take some flips and get loose. But he's on the bench watching the game and kind of ramps up his preparation for his next at bat as he gets closer. Called third strike at the knees, and Sano has gone down twice against Kazmir, once swinging, once looking.
Number 24, Trevor Blue.
Yeah, that's a pitcher's pitch, maybe getting a little benefit of the doubt from Dan Bellino, the home plate umpire.
And now Trevor Plouffe hit into the inning-ending double play in the first inning. And that off-speed pitch, mid-70s, and Plouffe on a half swing falls behind 0-1.
It's kind of an indication that you know that Scott Kazmir is getting dialed in when he's starting to be able to throw his off-speed pitches for strikes, and Twins hitters starting to show a little anxiousness chasing those pitches out of the zone.
And a throw to first, checking Mauer. Oakland with the worst record in the American League.
9.5 games behind the Angels starting play today. And another double play grounder skipping to Zobrist. And that takes care of the Twins in the fourth. Fox Sports North is presented by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. By NorthlandFord.com and your local Northland Ford dealer. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. Weather's been beautiful in the Bay Area. And the Twins hoping to extend a July winning streak to 5 games. Ben Zobrist will lead off the 4th inning. First pitch fouled back. Another first pitch strike for Phil Hughes.
Well, Phil Hughes has really been dialed, and that's 12 for 12 in first pitch strikes. And that's what he does. That's when Phil Hughes is on his game, as he's pounding that strike zone, trying to get ahead of hitters. Rarely walks anybody.
Outside.
He's already up to a whopping total of 11 for the year.
And the magic number for Phil last year was 16. 16 wins, 16 home runs allowed, 16 walks allowed. And Zobrist takes low, 2-1. The American League earned run average coming into play today, 3.84. 2-1. And Mauer catches a line drive headed to the right field corner, 1 down.
Very good reactions right there from Joe Mauer. It's almost like he could sense that that ball was going to be on the inner part of the plate, that the ball might go to his glove side. And he was moving with Zobrist's swing. And that's just good reactions. That's all there is to it. That first step made the difference of him getting to that ball.
1 down, and now Reddick. And fouled back. Mentioned the league earned run average, 3.84. The Twins ERA 3.76. So in that statistic alone, again, the Twins just a little bit better than average in the American League, but a far cry from what they've had the last 4 years. 3 hopper to Mauer. He'll go to the bag, 2 away.
Be interesting to look at the different decades and what the league average was and how the game has changed with this influx of the relief pitchers and their role, the 100-pitch count. I gotta imagine ERAs have gone up slightly, and I could be totally wrong. I don't know the answer to this, by the way, so I know we can maybe have somebody look it up if it's not you yourself. My point is, with with pitchers not going as deep, they have less chance of kind of getting in the rhythm of things.
Right.
Now, granted, they're also not going to pitch when they're tired, which sometimes you walk guys when you're getting a little fatigued.
1 strike, and now a bouncer left side. Looks like another quick inning for Phil Hughes. Escobar to Mauer. 8 pitches in a 1-2-3-4.
Can't beat that.
I just come out and play baseball and have fun. Show these young guys how to do it. Sorry.
And Torrey Hunter turning 40 today. He's already got a hit. He's got 3 hits in this series. The Twins nonetheless are stuck at 0. Rosario fouling it back. You know, looking back in recent Twins history, this notion of someone that age producing really isn't that uncommon. Jim Thome was still a feared slugger into his early 40s with the Twins. Rosario swings and misses 0-2. Twins manager Paul Molitor might have had his finest year in the big leagues in a Hall of Fame career the summer he turned 40.
Satchel Paige was 60, wasn't he? Minnie Minoso played in every decade for about 120 years.
We're talking about Hall of Fame caliber players in Thome and Molitor. 1 and 2 to Rosario, and a ball poked to center field, and retreating a few steps Billy Burns. 1 down. After turning 38 years of age, Paul still hit over 300. Played till he was 42 years of age. And I would be very surprised at this time whether Torrey doesn't come back and play another year next year. He still feels like he is a productive hitter.
He was talking about it in the clubhouse yesterday. He said, you know, a year ago I said I'm going to play this year and take it from there. He said, now I feel like I'm going to play next year too. So he already was indicating that he plans on trying to lace up the spikes again next summer, and the way he's playing, there's no reason why not.
Hicks struck out swinging his first time up. Fooled on a pair of changeups. 2-0. Twins got a bloop double, a ground ball single, and a walk to start the ball game against Kazmir, but did not score in the first inning. Hicks uncoils and misses. 2-1. To the Twins center fielder. Stroked solidly under the glove of Semien. Hicks has a base hit. Bobbled briefly in left by Canna. The Twins get a 1-out single. Our Soup.com trivia question: as a Minnesota Twin, what player has hit the most home runs after turning 40?
Kurt Suzuki.
I may have inadvertently given the answer a few minutes ago. Here is Kurt Suzuki. Suzuki with a fly to right his first time up. Let's see the Twins try to do something here with Hicks and his speed at first. Slide step and ball 1 to Suzuki. Hicks can steal a base. Suzuki can be a hit and run guy at the plate.
Yeah, I was going to say Suzuki pretty good contact hitter, so more likely it would be a hit and run.
Kazmir with a good pickoff move. He does have a couple of balks called on him this year. Again, the slide step and the ball fouled away.
Kazmir doing a really good job of disrupting the Twins' timing, changing speeds well, pitching to both sides of the plate. I mean, you look at the guy, and you know he barely breaks 90 miles an hour, and you say, how come? Well, this is what pitching is.
You're not going to give up many stolen bases, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, when you just barely pick up your front foot and drive it toward home plate.
And there's coaches on both sides constantly timing pitchers from the time that they break their hands and start their delivery towards home until the time you hear that snap of the glove and the ball goes in it as the catcher. And they need to know that because that's how they judge whether they should steal or hit and run.
And Kazmir has just gotten his third ground ball double play. Got Suzuki out in front of an off-speed pitch. 6-4-3 ends the inning. No score as we go to the 5th inning, or the bottom of the 5th inning, and our Pepsi fans of the game hoping the Twins can make it 5 wins in a row, hoping to win the first 2 games of this series. The Twins won 3 out of the 4 games these two teams played at Target Field, winning the last or the first game here last night. Ike Davis will lead off the 5th for Oakland. Davis hit a ground ball single to right his first time up. There's another first pitch strike, and to your point in the game open, there's another off-speed pitch, a get-me-over breaking ball for strike 1.
Yeah, it's a show-me pitch that, you know, if a hitter's sitting dead red, which a lot of the teams were doing off Phil Hughes, you've got to change speeds, and to throw strikes on those off-speed pitches is almost like a freebie for Phil Hughes. But he's been pounding the strike zone, getting hit on every hitter almost. To your point about the Twins, they've done very well against the Western Division, 7-4 against the American League West coming into today's game, trying to win a series by a win today.
1-2. One thing, too, the Twins have done. Now, there are only 4 teams in the major leagues that have a better record than the Twins have right now. Just outside. Kansas City in the American League. And then St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and the Dodgers in the National League. Well, in head-to-head competition against the 4 teams who have a better record than the Twins right now. Some fans bringing a birthday present maybe for Torrey Hunter. Against those 4 teams, the Twins are 9-10. So when they've stepped up in class, if you will, the Twins have held their own.
I'm playing 500 ball.
Yeah.
And there's no one team that just absolutely stands out as the dominant team, especially in the American League. The Royals are 3 wins better than the Twins, and the Twins are playing. The Royals already won their game today, so if the Twins could win this game, they're basically 2 games behind them in the win column. And that's pretty much the same, in my opinion. I mean, I know the Royals have played less games, so they have less losses, but...
You can see the record again. Kansas City had a split doubleheader yesterday and then 13 innings today. But they did win. They've taken 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. The Tigers fell back to 500. They were shut out tonight by the Orioles in Detroit. Cleveland, incidentally, is beaten Cincinnati 9-4 behind Corey Kluber. Full count to the leadoff man, Ike Davis, here in the 5th inning.
I got to correct myself because I said there were only 3 games. They're actually 4.
Right.
When I came to the ballpark and actually put down my numbers, the Royals hadn't won their game yet. So I was looking at yesterday's results, really.
A rare walk and a leadoff walk to Ike Davis. That'll bring up Laurie. One of the reasons the Twins are 10 games above 500, they've done well in 1-run games. But the A's, with that great starting pitching that they've enjoyed most of the year, really struggling, are Coors Light cold hard facts. And the A's are 8-22 in 1-run games.
Boy, what a difference that can be. Just if they could play 500 in 1-run games, they would be right in the hunt of things. And losing those close ones can really be demoralizing.
High fly to left field, and Rosario with the catch. Well, they struggled in that category last year, particularly late. That's one of the reasons their big lead evaporated. Losing low-scoring 1-run ball games. But those are tougher. I mean, every team's going to lose 13-2 from time to time. But, boy, those 1-run losses, especially when you have a few of them in a week, are really tough.
You brought up a great point yesterday about run differential and how the A's have outscored their opponents significantly. But then you look at losses in 1-run games, and it shows why they are where they're at.
Canna hit a fly ball to right his first time up. See if Hughes follows suit and delivers strike 1. Fastball this time, and it caught the corner.
There's been 4 double plays in the game so far. The Twins have hit into 3 of those. Kazmir been the beneficiary of that. Phil Hughes has induced 1 double play. Maybe he can get another one here.
And strike 2 taken.
For the kids that might be watching late in Minnesota, 17 out of 17 first pitch strikes for Phil Hughes. And that just puts him in the driver's seat every at-bat.
To Canna, and he takes down and away.
That last pitch was not his cutter. That was his slider, and it's a lot bigger break. You can see that he was trying to get Canna to maybe go out of the zone or roll one over if he was trying to pull the ball, but it was just too far outside to be tempting enough.
Missing the down and away corner, 2-2. A's shut out last night. So far, Phil Hughes has hung up 4 zeros tonight. Semien on deck.
Well, you're pitching in a 0-0 game, and you have a leadoff walk, which is never a good idea. You've got to go and get the next 2 guys for sure.
This one near the Twins dugout and will reach the seats.
Just don't want to see Ike Davis get to second base after a leadoff walk. Did a good job of getting Laurie to fly out to left. And now ahead again with Mark Hannon.
Two and two. Oakland's left fielder. Very close to a called third strike, and Dan Bellino said it missed someplace. Full count.
Really good crowd here in Oakland today as we watch that last pitch. Fox tracks. Bert and I would call that a strike because a part of that baseball hit the strike zone.
I call it a strike too.
Any seam, any gnat that's on the seam, seeing as it's connected to the planet Earth.
Davis not going anywhere, and the ball grounded sharply to right field. First and second, 1 down for the number 9 man. Another threat for the A's, similar to the one they had in the second inning. You can follow live Twins baseball every day with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. Stay connected to the Twins all season with MLB.tv, game of the day, in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, and more. Browse the app's new features, including StatCast tracking videos and bilingual access for Spanish-speaking fans. MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Trevor Plouffe to the bag, steps and fires, and Phil Hughes gets his second ground ball double play. Semien on the first pitch grounds into an inning-ending double play, and we're scoreless through 5.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time for the Oakland Athletics.
Score as we head to the top of the 6th inning. Twins fans, don't forget, at Twins home games, you may bring your Circle Me signs, and if you get circled, you may find yourself in the Minnesota Lottery's winner's circle, where you could win $100 worth of lottery scratch-off tickets, courtesy of the Minnesota Lottery.
You know, if I can guess, it looks like those folks from the Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Iowa area. No score as we go to the 6th. The 6th inning in last night's game was a big inning for the Twins. They ended up getting the grand slam from Trevor Plouffe. Eduardo Escobar will lead off the 6th tonight, and he takes up and away ball 1. Escobar bounced to Zobrist, hit the ball fairly hard. There haven't been many well-hit balls against Kazmir here tonight. Down and in, 2-0. Kazmir goes for a little stroll. Remember, in that 6th inning, Brian Dozier got a leadoff walk, and Sonny Gray said by that time he was just kind of fighting it a little bit. He's trying to get back in the strike zone, but paid the price for the leadoff walk.
Sonny Gray was on his regular rotation too. I mean, the All-Star break came and he was in attendance in Cincinnati, but a hectic week for him, but he did not pitch, so he was right on schedule. Kazmir's had a little extra time, as well as Phil Hughes has had, and sometimes that can be a deterrent, fighting your command.
2-2, and that ball stroked foul down the left field line over by the Oakland bullpen. Seen a lot of right-handed batters have that same issue. In that case, Escobar got the barrel of the bat on it, but they're way out in front on an off-speed pitch. That to right field, and Reddick drifting back into the sunshine makes the catch, 1 away.
A little corner of right field, the last place on the playing surface that has the sun still shining. It's on the warning track out there and right.
Dozier.
That'll bring up Dozier. Dropped a double in front of Canna in left field in the 1st inning, and then popped up behind second base. Second baseman Zobrist made the catch. Up and in, ball 1.
I hate to put the horse before the cart, but you see in a game here where both pitchers have really kind of got dialed in. A shutout so far on both sides. Pitch counts could become the factor. And look at Kazmir's pitch count, 75. He's 25 away from saying sayonara. And, you know, if his team doesn't score him runs, again, he's got a great ERA with 5 wins to go. Show for it for the whole first half.
See Dozier take too many fastballs, but he took one for a strike. 2-1.
You see his pitch count by inning, 25 in the 1st inning, so he had a rough 1st inning. The Twins had their chances with bases loaded, but since then he's been really dialed in.
Popped up right field. Reddick comes in. 2 down. And that'll bring up Hunter. Twins with 4 hits, A's with 4 hits. The Twins bunched some things together, though, in the 1st inning and had a great chance to take the early lead.
Sometimes I think it's the tendencies, too, and that's what pitchers want to feed off of. As you get deeper into games that are close, 1-run games or even games like this one, and hitters want to become the heroes. They're thinking lose the ball in the seats, that 1 run could be the difference maker, and they start getting a little more aggressive with their swings, and the smart pitchers are aware of that.
It was always one of Tom Kelly's laments in extra inning games toward the end of his managerial career, when he had a lot of young players and everybody wanted to do that, step up and hit the extra inning home run rather than have the leadoff guy, you know, push a base hit to right field or whatever.
Yeah, or work the count. Try to make that pitcher work.
Kazmir again with a little bit of a stroll, missing on a 0-2 pitch.
I think those are the differences between a veteran player and a young player, though. Those are some of the things that separate the two, because talent is still there for both, but the knowledge of playing the game and understanding situations really benefits the veteran player.
Foul tip, and Kazmir heading towards the dugout, and that foul tip got a piece of Vogt.
Torrey way out in front of that, but somehow was able to put part of the bat on the ball. Here it is.
Okay, well, we know what happened. And a fastball ends the inning. 6 shutout innings for Scott Kazmir in a scoreless game. by Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. By Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, for the everyday competitor in all of us. And by McDonald's. With $1.69 iced coffees and 69-cent vanilla cones, you can get totes, treats, excited all summer long at McDonald's. Billy Burns fouls the first pitch off in the 6th inning. I came over on the team bus about 3.5 hours before game time. A long line of people waiting to get in for the game tonight because it is Hello Kitty bobblehead night here. And to my knowledge,
30,000 people here tonight. We had 20-some low 20s last night, so 10 extra thousand people lined up to get that.
1-1 to Burns. Vogt and Zobrist will follow. Pushed foul. 1-2. Now, you know, baseball's probably led the way, I guess, in creative promotions. And it was about, 15 years ago, the Beanie Baby craze was folded into the baseball promotion department.
There's another promotion there.
Ricky Henderson.
Lacing them up.
Getting ready for the mascot race.
Anyway.
Down low. And it's 2-2. Hughes has been good. He's given up just 4 singles and 1 walk. The A's have actually put a couple of those successful plate appearances together in 1 inning, but still haven't gotten a runner to third base. And now Hughes off the mound gets the second hop, underhands it to Mauer, 1 away.
A little better job of getting over to his left on Billy Burns, who got a base hit earlier on that kind of thing. But
bring up Stephen Vogt.
To your point, the Twin starters have really done a good job here in the last week plus, only allowing 1 run in the last 25 innings. Look at Hughes get over there, huh? Somebody must have said something about taking PFP again on the off day, because whenever one pitcher fails cover first, the entire staff gets punished for it, and they all have to be out there.
Tommy Malone will make the start tomorrow for the Twins. Here's Vogt. Squaring to bunt, taking low. Is that his first non-strike on the first pitch?
I think it is. It's the first one of the game for Phil Hughes.
Jack Morris, we're in the 6th inning here. This is his 20th batter.
That's good. That's what you strive to do.
And he comes right back into the strike zone, 1-1.
I mean, he did allow that rare leadoff walk to Ike Davis to start the 5th inning. 19 out of 20 first pitch strikes.
And a short pop-up, left field. Rosario comes in. 2 down. That'll get us to Ben Zobrist. Twins and the Mariners square off at Target Field July 30th through August 2nd. Friday night includes Friday night fireworks with music presented by Cool 108 and a special happy hour at Barrio from 4:30 to 5:30. Saturday is a DQ Sensational Saturday. Sunday is a Super America Knothole Kids Day. Call 800-33-TWINS. Visit twinsbaseball.com. Get your tickets. Twins have a nice long homestand. Is there any other kind? Coming up at the end of this road trip. Some business to conduct here in Oakland. 3 games and then 3 games in Anaheim. But then the Twins are home for 3 with the Yankees, 2 with the Pirates, and 4 with the Mariners. And the Twins would like to continue to play good baseball and separate even further their record from the 500 mark, because then things are going to get tougher.
Well, it's quite a contrast for the Twins' record at home. 31-16 at home. Coming into tonight's game here in Oakland, 19-24 on the road. So it's a significant difference playing in front of the home crowd.
1-1 and a pitch popped up. Bluth crossing the line.
There's room.
Plenty of room here. And it's another 1-2-3 inning for Phil Hughes. We are scoreless through 6. opportunity for either team came very early.
Yeah, the birthday boy, Torrey Hunter, gets a base hit. That loads them up in the first inning with nobody out. But a couple of hitters later, Trevor Plouffe hits into the 6-4-3 double play. And Kazmir gets out of it. Then the A's have something cooking. Semien hits into a ground ball to Trevor Plouffe, who steps on the bag, and Phil Hughes gets a double play. So both pitchers kind of matched up evenly in pitch count and with zeros on the board.
It'll be the 3, 4, and 5 batters, Mauer, Sano, and Plouffe, facing Kazmir here in the 7th. Laurie playing back about halfway in the skin of the infield. We've seen Joe drop down bunts for hits in situations like this. He has singled and walked. Outside, ball 1.
It's a situation where if Joe would try to push one down, he's going to have to get it by the left-handed pitching Kazmir. Now, Kazmir's glove side is the side he's going to fall off on, and that is the third base side. So he's going to have to take responsibility for any ball that's hit halfway to third base.
Well, Kazmir falls behind 2-0. Mauer walked in the first and then singled in the 4th. Sano on deck.
Here's the ultimate question. Your manager wants your number 3 hitter to get up there and get a hit. He wants to get a hit. But getting on base in a 0-0 game is, to me, just as important. So if a guy like Joe Mauer, who has capability of the back control and can bunt, felt like laying one down here, I don't look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as get on base however you can. Get the inning going.
Joe has done that a couple of times as a leadoff batter in an inning. Now the count 3-1. Hit right to Zobrist. 1 down. And before Miguel Sano comes to the plate, let's find Marty Gelder.
Well, guys, these are all new ballparks to Miguel Sano, and I asked him how he makes himself comfortable in a place like this, and he said he comes out to early batting practice, tries to hit a few baseballs to right field, a few to center, a few to left to kind of get a feel for it. I asked him specifically about all the open space here, if that bothers him or affects him at all, and he said he really tries to picture target field. He tries to think of his home ballpark when he is at the plate. And Dick and Jack Sano will have to do a lot of adjusting. All these ballparks are going to be new for him early on in his career.
And they've all had a little, thanks Marnie, they all have a little different backdrop, and I think that's what it takes a little getting used to. Plus the pitching staff themselves, I think that's more important. He's never seen Scott Kazmir, and you see Kazmir struck him out already twice in this game in his first 2 at-bats.
That's the first time in Sano's brief major league career
off-speed pitches
where he's been overmatched with off-speed pitches. Kazmir gets him this time on just 3 pitches, 2 down.
It's Kazmir's 5th strikeout, and you can see that Sano, something he did not do in last night's game and really hasn't done much at all as a Twin at the big league level, is swing out of the zone. He's really good with 2 strikes, but that time way out in front of a ball that was down.
Here's Plouffe. He's bounced into 2 double plays tonight. Swing and a foul. 1 strike. The Twins have hit into 3 double plays. Since the first inning, Kazmir's faced the minimum number of batters because of the double plays. Line to Semien, who may have caught it more with the bare hand than the glove hand. It's an out, and it's a 1-2-3-7 for Scott Kazmir. last night. Both teams shut out so far here tonight. Carsoup.com trivia question. It's got to be Jim Thome, doesn't it?
I can't think of who else it would be.
Dave Winfield. How about that?
Wow, he hit that many. I didn't realize he hit that many as a Twin.
Jim Thome with 19 after his 40th birthday. Paul Molitor with 15. Phil Hughes out there. He'll face the middle of the Oakland lineup, starting with Josh Reddick here in the 7th. And a pitch up, ball 1. Reddick, Butler, and Davis will hit here in the 7th. Very high again. See Hughes misfire that badly with back-to-back pitches at all here tonight, and now he starts the 7th inning falling behind Reddick 2-0. And there's a strike. Foul back 2-2. Total of 8 hits on the board, 4 aside. The Twins with the only extra base hit. That was Dozier's bloop double to start the ball game.
Phil Hughes, 81 pitches. He's in very good shape with his pitch count. But again, nothing game or a 1-1 game. Every pitch is so critical, especially as you get deeper in the game.
Bounced foul. Still 2-2. Reddick 0 for 2 tonight, 2 for 18 in his matchups against Phil Hughes. Butler on deck. That's to the left, and Rosario with a diving catch in left field.
Well, Bobby Melvin immediately out of the dugout. He wants to make sure he can review that, or his guys can review that to see if Rosario might have trapped that ball or not. He did get a little bit of a late jump, and I'm sure we'll get another look at it. Here we are. We get to take a good look. And that ball really
clean a catch as you can have.
Well, it might have popped down for a second. I don't know if they're going to have a different angle, but it looked to me like there was a chance that when he rolled his glove over, it might have hit the ground quickly.
1 down, and now Butler takes a ball.
The fact that Phil Hughes is throwing a pitch, they're not going to review it, but you can see it goes into his glove, and then it rolls over right there.
It stayed in the webbing.
You know what? We're going to call it an out.
Looked foul. 1-1.
Good effort there by Eddie Rosario.
You know, the Twins have upgraded themselves significantly from a year ago, but within the season, the outfield defense is so much better.
Oh my!
And Rosario in left field is a big part of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure Josh Willingham, not to knock old buddy Josh, but
deep fly to center field, and now Hicks back to the wall, leaps, gone, a home run for Butler. And the A's take a 1-0 lead.
I'm watching Aaron Hicks, not even seeing where the ball is. I look up and I'm watching Aaron Hicks, and it looked like he had a beat on that ball. You can see the location of the pitch right down Broadway. Fastball that Billy Butler put a good swing on. The ball was hit high to center field. And I thought Hicks had a chance, but as you can see, it's probably 6 feet beyond the wall.
First time the Twins have trailed since the 9th inning Friday. Davis checks his swing and takes ball 1. Butler hitting his 8th home run of the year. Davis takes ball 2. Out of center. And Davis has his second hit. He's reached all 3 times against Phil Hughes.
Another fastball that's kind of center cut, middle of plate. Phil's going to have to do a little bit better job of missing the heart of the plate. Like Davis might have hit it off the end of a bat the way he's cringing with his hands.
The home run that Butler hit, the 23rd allowed by Phil Hughes, that leads the American League. And it's a big one, obviously, because it gives the A's the first lead here tonight. And now Brett Lawrie, who's bounced to second and hit a fly ball to left.
Right-hander Blaine Boyer is going to begin his warm-up tosses in the bullpen. I noticed something there. Phil Hughes kind of biting at his fingers. I wonder if a blister has developed. Callus, maybe. He's got something going on.
He's had that issue before. Fingernail issues. Earlier this year, it was an issue for Phil. 1 strike to Lawrie. And now a ball. Kazmir has been very good tonight at his roughest start of the season earlier this year against the Twins, but he's shut them out through 7 so far here tonight. Outside, and it's 2-1.
The way Kazmir has been throwing the ball, Phil Hughes just cannot afford to give up another run. He's got to get the Twins back in the dugout and give them an opportunity to maybe create some magic and score a run and get it tied back up.
Bouncer toward short. Escobar feeds Dozier, and Dozier's able to hang on to a throw that handcuffed him. The Twins get the lead runner. 2 down with Lawrie reaching on a fielder's choice. And before Canna comes to the plate, as promised earlier in the game, we've selected the Data Strong Fan photo of the game. You can tweet your strongest fan photo to hashtag #NorthDataStrongFan for a chance to be featured in an upcoming broadcast brought to you by T-Mobile. Partners in crime. And we don't know what the crime is.
Well, it's not Bonnie and Clyde.
2 down, runner at first, a run in, and Canna, who is 1 for 2 against Phil Hughes. Canna takes strike 1.
.94 pitches for Phil.
Irvin Santana last night pitched into, not through, but into the 8th inning. And Hughes trying to do that as well with Boyer warming up. Strike on the outside corner, 0-2.
I'm sure when Phil Hughes, if he can get a quick out here to Canna, when he comes off the mound, Neil Allen and Paul Molitor will ask him how he is. They're going to give him a chance to go back out there, especially if the Twins don't score, to give him a chance to, still win this game. But a lot of times Phil is being honest and has told his pitching coach, hey, I've had enough. Right around 100 pitches.
Blocked nicely by Suzuki, 1 and 2. Sometimes you are confronted with the fact that there's such a fine line between winning and losing. Last night's game, the difference, it was a 5-0 win, but really we're talking 2 at-bats, right?
2 pitches, pretty much.
Yeah. And so you have a game like today, and the Twins may lose tonight because of 1 pitch. And then you try to extend that for the whole season. if as a team you win 4 games a week, you're going to the playoffs. If you win 3 games a week, people get fired and fans are unhappy. I mean, it's the nature of the business. But
it's like in the movie Bull Durham, where he's talking about the difference between 1 hit a week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know what it was. Can't remember the numbers, but a little bloop here, a wounded quail there, and keeps you alive.
2-2 to Canna. You know, and so when we see a team that turns its fortunes around abruptly, and maybe the Twins will be one of those teams this year, it shouldn't take us by surprise. If you do some little things just a little bit better than you did, and I know the last 4 years have been hard for Twins fans to watch, but across the board the Twins have done things just a little bit better. Starting pitching's been much better. And so there you have it. Now you're winning 4 games a week instead of 3. 2-2 to Canna. And another foul. You know, you were part of some baseball history with the Twins in 1991, a team that finished in last place in 1990, but well, the starting pitching was a little bit better, and some guys had better years, and a lot of things were done just a little bit better in 1991 than in 1990, and you get into the playoffs, run the table, and you got a World Series winner on your hands.
Certainly, if it happened to that team, it could happen to other teams. This Minnesota Twin team could happen too.
Called third strike, and Hughes finally finishes the 7th inning. But the A's get the first, and so far only run of the game on a Butler home run. And it's 1-0 Oakland. Twins trailing for the first time since the 9th inning of Friday's game at Target Field, when they came back from 6-1 to win 8-6. Phil Hughes apparently done for the night. Yeah. Eddie Rosario will lead off the 8th against Scott Kazmir, and there's strike 1.
That was Kazmir's 93rd pitch of the night. He's thrown over 100 pitches in 9 of 17 starts this year.
Former Twin Sam Folden left, and now inside with a fastball, 1-1.
But Phil Hughes, Paul Mauder is really pretty much, he gets right around 100 pitches, and that usually is the end of the night for Phil. And trailing, it's never fun. He's going to have to sit there and hope the Twins can score right now.
Backhanded, Zobrist with a good play to get Rosario one away. And that'll bring up Aaron Hicks. Take your family to the ballpark this summer in the Minnesota Twins Our Family section, presented by Fox Sports North. Tickets in the alcohol-free section start at just $10 and includes a free Schweigert hot dog and Pepsi. For ticket info, visit foxsportsnorth.com. Click on upcoming events on the Hot Topics bar. Here's Hicks. Singled sharply his last time up. Struck out swinging in the second. Speed pitch, and Kazmir's been teasing Twins hitters with that slow breaking stuff all night long.
Especially the younger guys. He feels that they're going to be aggressive, especially as you get deeper in the game. He's throwing a steady diet of off-speed pitches.
Fastballs off the plate and breaking balls over in the strike zone.
And changeups down in the zone.
1-1.
No activity in the A's bullpen. Kazmir's pitch count 97.
A high fly deep but foul down the left field line. Again, this is a guy who came out of the game after 3 innings in his last start against the Yankees because of some tightness in his tricep, but obviously going strong here tonight. 1-2.
More than likely that was just a cramp. Because had it been anything more severe, it wouldn't have been enough time. He would have felt it by now.
Pop up near second base. Zobrist out number 2.
Another off-speed pitch that Aaron Hicks way out in front.
And now Suzuki. Fiend and Boyer warming up. Fiend was warming up last night. Didn't get into the game. Brian Dunsing and Irvin Santana combined for the shutout. Suzuki with a fly to right, and then he bounced into a double play in the 5th. A strike. The Astros lost to Texas tonight. And the Angels are now the class of the American League West. Oakland starting the game 9.5 games behind the Angels. And 2 weeks from now, the trade deadline will have come and passed. And I guess I would be surprised if the A's aren't very active. Bob Melvin saw his team trade its slugger in the days and weeks before the trading deadline last year. This ball hit fairly well to center, but Burns is there for the catch. And Kazmir again faces the minimum number of batters. He's got 8 shutout innings tonight. Well, thank you, Tom. And the story has been Scott Kazmir. The Twins have run into this tough lefty before. Blaine Boyer coming out of the Twins pen. He'll pitch to the A's in the 8th inning.
One swing of the bat been the difference in this ball game. Phil Hughes exits with only allowing 6 hits over 7 innings, giving up the 1 earned run. Got the home run for Billy Butler. So Phil did a great job tonight, but sits in the dugout right now with a chance to lose this game unless the Twins can figure out a way to get on top.
Semien called out on strikes in the 3rd, hit into a double play his next time up, and Boyer misses. 2-0.
Blaine Boyer had a nice little session during batting practice today with pitching coach Neil Allen. I'm not sure exactly what they were discussing, but Boyer was throwing to somebody out in the outfield, and I saw Neil Allen just run right over to him. And he talked to him for an extended length of time. And Boyer threw a bunch more pitches, so Neil saw something that he wanted to make sure that Blaine corrected.
And a 4-pitch walk to Semien, the number 9 batter, starts Boyer's night's work. And that'll bring up Billy Burns in what might be a bunting situation. July 25th, it's a DQ sensational Saturday. The Twins taking on the Yankees. And the first 10,000 fans get a Brian Dozier bobblehead presented by Fisher Nuts. Now that makes a lot more sense than a Hello Kitty.
Well, and that bobblehead, by the way, is somewhat resemblance of Brian, especially the hair.
You go to twinsbaseball.com/tickets. Get your tickets today. Although in their defense, the A's bobblehead tonight looks exactly like Hello Kitty. Might be the most accurate bobblehead in the history of bobbleheads. 1 strike to Burns. Infield hit in the 1st, fly ball to left in the 3rd, and then a comebacker to the mound in the 6th.
Left-hander Ryan O'Rourke up and thrown in the Twins pen. Again, no activity in the A's pen, so maybe Bob Melvin's going to let Scott Kazmir go back out there to try to finish this game.
One thing that Paul Molitor would like to do is maintain a 12-man pitching staff through the second half of the year. For a good chunk of the first half, he had 13 pitchers, and that really limits what you can do.
Yeah, right now he has 4 bench players. And one is always going to be a backup catcher.
That's a chopper foul. Burns fouled it off his front leg. And the Twins will be interested, I'm sure, in looking at who might be available to improve the bench. This has not been a productive bench for the Twins this year. So far on the season, the Twins have 3 pinch hits in 35 at bats, and a total of 2 runs batted in. Those from Chris Herman, and he's no longer on the team.
No, that's Eric Fryer right there. He's the backup catcher to Kurt Suzuki.
2 strikes to Burns. Semien with a good lead at first. And Burns gets a piece to stay alive. Semien 7 steals and 10 tries. A's with 52 stolen bases. They've been caught 13 times. That's an 80% success rate. As a team, golfed foul. They employ best base stealer I've ever seen, Ricky Henderson, best in history, and he does serve as a spring training and part-time coach. He'll show up here at the Coliseum from time to time to work with selected base runners. Oh, 2 to Billy Burns. Long hold by Boyer, and he steps off.
Bring up Ricky Henderson. I'm saying this as a joke, but I could just see Ricky talking to some young players, and he talks about Ricky in the second person because he loved to do that. And I don't know as though he can teach guys to run and have the instincts that he did, but certainly a tough base runner.
Way outside. Was he with you in Toronto?
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
He was my teammate for 1 year, and I got to know him in a different way, and really got to understand Ricky a lot better. It was a fun time for me. A big part of that team in '93.
1-2. Boyer trying to pitch around the 4-pitch walk that started this 8th inning. And Burns with another foul. Burns is an interesting guy. He just started switch hitting a couple years ago. He was a right-handed batter and just started switch hitting. And he's done very well from the left side of the plate, hitting just under 300 and hitting over 300 as a right-handed batter.
Yeah, he's got kind of a different type of swing from the left side. It kind of reminds me of Mickey Rivers. The bat kind of swings him.
And Suzuki hangs on to the foul tip, and Burns strikes out 1 down. Now here's the Brian Dozier one the Twins are giving away, and
I think that kind of looks like Dozier.
Yeah. Yeah, I would.
I have no idea who Hello Kitty is, so I can't tell you if that looks like her or not.
Paul Molitor to the mound, and he will take Blaine Boyer out. Ryan O'Rourke will come in to pitch to Stephen Vogt. Zobrist to switch hitter as the Twins try to keep this a 1-0 ball game.
For Minnesota.
Leadoff man on 4 pitches eventually struck out Billy Burns. Tomorrow, our Century Link What's Next? Tommy Malone pitching on a familiar mound against the Oakland A's, and Jesse Chavez, who pitched a great ball game against the Twins at Target Field earlier this year. He's struggled otherwise. He'll make the start for Oakland. Ryan O'Rourke comes in, and he's been really good in the handful of opportunities. 3 games, 2 2/3 innings. No walks, no hits, nothing. 3 strikeouts. He's facing Stephen Vogt. Outside, ball 1.
Zobrist, a switch hitter on deck. So he's really up there to get Vogt right now. Casey Fiend still throwing down in the Twins bullpen.
Over for a strike. And to me, O'Rourke's delivery, almost a spitting image of Caleb Thielbar, who was with the Twins for the last couple of years and earlier this year as well. Casey Fiend warming up. There's a 3/4 swing by Vogt. That's 1-2.
It's kind of an explosive delivery. He gets to a set point and then everything rushes in a hurry. And you know, he's trying to run the ball up there. Today's game is all about how hard you can throw and light up the radar gun, but it can also be very deceptive if he throws off-speed pitches.
And Vogt just got a piece of that breaking pitch.
And that was a good off-speed pitch right there.
You agree? I mean, isn't this pretty much Caleb Thielbar?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you see the head and the shoulder all go at once. You know, it's not what you want to teach kids, I'll tell you that. He flies open, that head's not still. He's not picking up the target before he releases the ball. But
and a breaking ball off the plate.
Something about left-handers. They seem to get the opportunities. Just especially guys that might not have the great stuff but have great command and, you know where the ball's going. They come in to face a left-hander. Good pitch.
Pulled the string on the breaking ball and got Vogt to swing and miss. 2 down. And now the switch hitter Zobrist.
Not a lot of strikeouts in this game for Twins pitchers. Phil Hughes had 2. And Blaine Boyer had 1. Excuse me, he had 2. Good pitch right there. Breaking ball down and away.
Right-handers are 0 for 5 against O'Rourke. Lefties now 0 for 4. Zobrist, a switch hitter, with a runner at first and 2 down. And a lob to first.
Molitor choosing to stick with O'Rourke against Zobrist. Casey Fiend is ready to go. Now there's activity. Tyler Clippard is throwing down there in the A's pen, so maybe that is the end of it.
Semien got a great break.
What a jump.
It's ball 1. Suzuki never got out of the crouch.
No, that was a case where the pitcher didn't give a second look, and he went way before he even started his move. No chance for Suzuki on that one.
1-0 now to Reddick. And a belt-high strike. And like Thielbar, O'Rourke about 90 miles per hour. Saw that fastball at 89. 1-1.
Just a big run there at second base. He needs to get Zobrist here.
Breaking ball down and in.
Just cannot afford to give up that second run. It gives so much more breathing room for that relief pitcher.
And now Suzuki will go to the mound. Runner at second, maybe changing signs.
Could be also a reminder. Maybe give a second look out there to Semien. He got a great jump. And catchers, they hate that. When you don't hold a runner and don't give him a chance to throw, they're not happy with that. So he's probably reminding them, hey, give him a second look. Give him a third look once in a while.
Two and one. And now 3-1. A base is open. And another left-handed batter, Reddick, on deck. Go ahead and walk Zobrist, an intentional walk. In the inning, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and now Reddick, who is 0 for 3, will take his swings against O'Rourke.
Number 22, Josh Reddick.
Yesterday's ball game, Bob Melvin, A's manager, pinch hit Reddick for Jake Smolinski because Reddick's had such a tough time against left-handers, and yet he's letting them hit off of the left-hander O'Rourke here.
In particular, had a tough time against Brian Dunsing, who was the left-hander on the mound. Popped up near the mound. Dozier running in and makes the catch. He's got a couple of walks. They leave him on the bases. And Eduardo Escobar, Brian Dozier, and the birthday boy are lined up to hit in the ninth. Kazmir still out there trying to pick up his second complete game shutout in his major league career. His only other complete game shutout. And he has only 3 complete games. But his only shutout back in 2006. A ball now a strike to Escobar.
Yeah, this is kind of uncharted water for Kazmir, but he's pitched a whale of a game.
2-1.
The A's only have 3 complete games all year. 2 of those shutouts, and 1 was Sonny Gray's shutout just prior to the All-Star break.
This is his 258th major league start. Clippard warming up as a parachute. And a ball lifted foul out of play. It'll be Escobar, Dozier, and Hunter. Twins have some speed on the bases. Eduardo Nunez, Shane Robinson, Danny Santana. They'd love to get Escobar on base with their top slugger on deck. Fouled away, still 2-2. Kazmir in 2012 was pitching in independent baseball. And he wasn't pitching particularly well. He was 3-6 with an ERA of 5.34 for Gary Gaetti and the Sugar Land Skeeters. Tapped left side. Laurie's going to have to hurry. Bare hands fires on a very close play. We'll see if the Twins challenge. And Paul Molitor telling Torrey Hunter, don't even get close to the batter's box. We want to take another look at that one. Escobar beating it down the line. And we'll take a look at our first replay.
Well, certainly Paul wants to take a look at it because there's nothing to lose by it. Brett Laurie doing a great job, and it looked to me like he just beat them.
Yeah, it looked like the catch was made right before the foot hit the bag. And so Dozier now in the box. One down. Fine play by Laurie getting the leadoff batter. And now here's Dozier. Way out in front of a 74-mile-per-hour off-speed pitch. That's what he's done, as you pointed out, to the veteran hitters. Feed them a lot of soft stuff.
You're up there. This is a game situation where you're not going to get a fastball to hit. He's not going to throw you one.
74 backed up by another 74-mile-per-hour pitch.
If he throws a fastball at all, he's just showing it to you. It's going to be well off the plate. His go-to pitch will be the curveball, and he's going to show changeups too.
1-2. Twins filled the bases against Kazmir with nobody out in the first inning. He got 3 outs from the next 2 batters and has faced the minimum number of batters since. Laurie to his left, spins, fires, and throws off target. Dozier will go to second. He'll round second and think about third, but he'll hold up with Laurie making one fine play and yet another error on the left side of the Oakland infield.
Just a case again where Brett Laurie not realizing he had more time than he thought he had. And now Bob Melvin's going to come out because he's not going to allow Kazmir to pitch to the go-ahead run. Now, you might have a conversation with him. No, as he crosses the line, that's it. Clippert's coming in. But if we watch Brett Laurie there, he had way more time than he thought, and he throws off balance. Now the Twins have a runner, the tying run at scoring position at second base.
And Dozier had thoughts of third base. And I guess give Ike Davis some credit for hustling through all the foul territory to retrieve the ball. Tying run at second, 1 out in the ninth.
For a limited time, save.
Kazmir may have pitched his last game for the Oakland A's. He will be asked about by other teams. A great outing here tonight.
Started out the game throwing a lot harder than he did finishing the game. Seemed like once he got in his rhythm, he was able to throw his changeup and breaking ball over more. But outstanding effort, 8 1/3 innings. Only 5 hits allowed. He will not give up an earned run no matter what happens here with the error. Well, there's still a chance.
Torrey Hunter will hit against Tyler Clippard, tying run at second. Dozier given credit for an infield hit, and then the error by Laurie allowing him to get to second base. Big swing and a foul, and that got another big piece of Stephen Vogt. Clippard left a pitch up, and Torrey Hunter swung from his heels.
This is the pitch that both Trevor Plouffe and Brian Dozier hit out of the park yesterday, but Torrey was out in front of it just a little bit, hit right off the end of the bat. And Stephen Vogt is not a happy camper right now.
1 strike to Hunter. Oakland outfield playing a very deep outfield. Any hit to the outfield should score the tying run. Tap foul, 0-2. Clifford's numbers that you saw are very good. Sean Doolittle was supposed to be the closer. He's pitched 1 inning this year. Shoulder problems have kept him on the disabled list. Clifford has stepped in and picked up 17 saves. We saw opponent batting average of 1.68. Twins trying to take advantage of the 45th error on the left side of the Oakland infield this year. 0-2. Fouled back. Teased him with some off-speed stuff and then tried to get the 92-mile-per-hour fastball by him for strike 3.
That's another thing that I just want to bring to everybody's attention. A veteran player, you don't fool them with fastballs when they're behind in the count. That's one thing they've learned over their careers is don't get beat by the fastball.
Go to first, and that will bring up Mauer. And we've had some components in this 9th inning that we had Friday night at Target Field. Hunter on his 40th birthday took one off the wrist area, it looked like.
I think it's the back of the elbow.
See a splitter that just kind of tailed in.
Right on the pad there.
Now Mauer. A walk, a single, and a ground ball to second. Twins haven't seen a whole lot of Clifford. Joe's seen him twice. He's 0 for 2.
Now this is the guy the Twins want at the plate. Excellent bat control.
Strike on the outside corner.
A lot of changeups in this game from the A's pitchers, Kazmir and now Clifford.
Semien lined up right behind Dozier, trying to keep him as close to second base as he can. Up and in.
The Oakland A's have a pretty darn good record when they lead after 8 innings. They're 38-1.
They've had bullpen issues, but it's generally not involved Clifford. Glenn Perkins warmed up, ready to come in and pitch the bottom of the 9th. Mauer trying to get us there. Swing and a miss. 1-2. Trying to win a 1-run game for just the 9th time this year. Butler's home run so far has stood up. 1-2 to Mauer. Away, will reach the seats.
Sonny Gray yesterday tried to go in on Joe right at the belt or below the belt on the inner half of the plate, and he was able to fight balls off, but really not handle them all that well. And you see Clifford right there with 2 strikes trying to do the same thing.
Again. Side move, but Dozier's not going anyplace. splitter.
Yeah, tough pitch to lay off. That ball had good bite to it, down and in. But just off the plate, Joe, excellent eye.
Still 2-2. Fastball that just missed the inside corner.
Joe giving him an at-bat here. We talk about grinding out at-bats, getting something you can handle, not really giving in to those borderline pitches that a lot of hitters will chase because they're over-anxious.
Full count to Mauer. A drive to right field. Back is Reddick at the wall. Can't make the play. Dozier will score. Hunter is to third, and he'll be held there. The Twins have tied it up in the ninth on a double by Joe Mauer.
Well, Joe got that pitch that he's able to drive. And I think it surprised the heck out of everybody in the Oakland side that he hit the ball where he did. It might even have surprised Torrey Hunter, who I'm not sure really knew what to do at first base, but had he been running hard from first, that ball had enough hang time that he would have been able to score. But he's got to make sure that that ball's not caught, and that's why he's at third. Now they're going to pinch run. Shane Robinson's going to come in pinch run for Torrey Hunter.
At third. Batter, number 22, Miguel Sano.
So the Twins have tied up, and the A's bring the infield in now for Miguel Sano. First base is open. Plouffe is on deck. Robinson, the go-ahead runner at third with one away. Checked his swing, and Vogt with a block. The ball rolls in front of the plate. Ball one.
This may be the most significant at-bat in Miguel's major league career right here.
He may not get anything to hit.
No, he may not, and that's fine, but he really can't afford to swing out of the zone. With his strength and power, he just needs to be able to lift the ball to normal depth in the outfield. Shane Robinson will easily score from third base, but he can't go out of the zone and chase pitches.
Swing and a miss, 1-1. Another off-speed pitch. He has struck out 3 times tonight, and of the 9 strikes, at least 8, I think, are on off-speed pitches.
Kazmir really exposed that aggressive nature from Miguel Sano by throwing him changeup after changeup way out in front on all of them.
1-1 to Sano. To right field. Reddick will make the catch. Robinson hustles home, and the Twins take a 2-1 lead. And the rookie comes through in the 9th inning.
Just a great at-bat. That's all he needed to do right there. Make contact, use his strength, and drive the ball, and he hit it far enough that there's no way Reddick was going to get Shane Robinson. A lot of high fives. Happy dugout there for the Twins. Now Glenn Perkins will throw a few more balls down in the bullpen with purpose as he gets ready to maybe come in and get a save here.
Jack, he gave Sano a fastball, didn't he?
I think it was. I'm not sure it was in the strike zone. It might have been a few inches off the plate, but you got to understand that that guy can cover some of the plate.
There's Plouffe. Mauer at second. A fastball, and Sano muscled it out deep enough to score Robinson easily. This rally, like the one Friday night with 1 out. Swing and a miss. 0-2. Hunter was behind in the count, and Clippard hit him with a pitch. Mauer had a very good at bat. Finished off with a double off the fence in right field. Then the rookie Sano with a fly ball, and the Twins have a 2-1 lead.
Well, again, the runner at second base, Joe Mauer, huge run. If Trevor Plouffe could maybe throw a good swing on it and drive in Joe Mauer at second base, that'll give Glenn Perkins double the breathing room, right?
Mm-hmm.
My high school math.
Swing and a miss. Plouffe strikes out. The Twins are done. Tough night for Trevor, but another ninth inning comeback for the Twins. They have a 2-1 lead. The Twins have the lead. Glenn Perkins on the mound so far. He's been perfect in save situations. Wasn't a save situation Tuesday night in Cincinnati, but he did finish the ball game for the American League. He will face Billy Butler, Ike Davis, Brett Laurie. At least they are the scheduled batters. Josh Fegley's in the on-deck circle. Butler takes inside, ball one. Butler 19 at-bats against Perkins, 5 hits. There's Fegley, the backup catcher, and a right-handed batter. 1-0 to Butler. Fouled away. So much attention given, and rightly so. Take a look at Butler's 7th inning at bat, getting it just over the wall and just over the reach of Aaron Hicks.
Yeah, one of the mistakes that Phil Hughes made, that ball was really center cut, and Billy Butler didn't miss it.
2-1. The improbable comeback Friday night grabbed a lot of attention regionally and nationally. It's always nice to have walk-off wins at home. To right field. Shane Robinson's out there. Well, that's
Eddie Rosario.
Eddie Rosario in right, and Shane Robinson is in left. Rosario with the catch, 1 away. There's Robinson and left, Perkins on the mound. But to me, Jack, when you steal one in the 9th on the road, to me, it's 3, 4, 5 times more impressive than the walk-offs at home.
It's just such a momentum builder and a confidence builder. The Twins, I know that game against the Tigers where they scored a lot of runs late off of Joaquin Soria and ended up winning the game. That had to be a huge confidence builder going into the All-Star break. And then if they can somehow figure out a way to win this one, it's like they stole it because Kazmir was so good.
Pop up right side, right to Mauer. Fagley is retired, 2 away, and that'll bring up Laurie.
Glenn Perkins, remarkable year as the closer for the Twins. 1 out away from getting the job done again without any hiccups in closing save situations.
Laurie with the error in the top of the inning, the last hope for the A's. And Perkins starts him with strike 1.
Breaking ball right there. Perk kind of getting dialed in early in the year. It was pretty much fastballs. He really had a tough time commanding that breaking ball, but now he's throwing both the fastball and the breaking ball. Another one there.
Missing 1-1.
Tough pitch.
Trying to save the win for Ryan O'Rourke, who came in and got the last 2 outs of the 8th inning. Swing and a miss, and it's 1-2. Breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball. Backhanded by Escobar, comes up firing, safe at first. Laurie beat out a hit despite a great play by Eduardo Escobar.
Well, Eduardo did everything he could there. Just a hustling Brett Laurie prevented that from being the final out. Take another look. What a great effort there by Eduardo Escobar. Comes up, makes a great strong throw, but Brett Laurie just a little too quick. Now the A's have a runner on, tying run at first base.
And now Smolinski will hit for Canada.
Number 5, Smolinski.
Smolinski pinch hit last night in the ball game. This was Sam Folt's spot on the batting order. Tying run at first. Smolinski takes down and in, and Laurie will advance to second base. So now the A's have the tying run at second. And a hit to the outfield might tie the game.
That looked like a fastball that he just pulled glove side.
Wild pitch.
Kind of handcuffed Kurt Suzuki.
A little looper, and it'll tie the game. In on the trademark, and Smolinski drops a base hit, and for the first time this year, Glenn Perkins does not successfully convert a save. An infield hit and the wild pitch that allowed Laurie to get into scoring position. First 2 outs came so quickly. And in a matter of a handful of pitches, the A's have tied it up, and now Marcus Semien. Fastball and a strike. Fouled the back, and it's 2 strikes. Semien 1 for 5, 3 strikeouts against Perkins.
The A's only got 1 walk-off win in 2015. That was against Texas.
Check swing foul.
Josh Reddick got a fielder's choice and drove in the go-ahead run in that walk-off.
To Semien. Blue from foul territory. Fires across. A foul ball is called, and the at-bat will continue.
Veteran umpire Tom Hallion made the call, but Trevor's got his back to him, so he doesn't really hear him. And what he has to do is what he did. Continue with the play. Simeon would have been out.
And now Perkins trying to send this game to extra innings. Very high. 1-2. Swing and a miss. Perkins strikes out Simeon. Each team had a one-run lead in the ninth. The bottom line is we'll go to the 10th tied at 2. Presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky all season long. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Feed your wild side. Twins came back with 2 runs in the top of the 9th inning. And the A's got a run to make it a 2-2 game going to the 10th. Twins will send up Eddie Rosario, Aaron Hicks, and Kurt Suzuki. Josh Phegley staying in the game. He will catch. Remember, Stephen Vogt took a foul tip off his bare hand. Vogt will move to first base. Smolinski is now in left.
Number 20, Eddie Rosario.
And Drew Pomerantz will be the new pitcher. 28th game for Pomerantz. Okay numbers, but they say here in Oakland the bullpen's really been an issue. And maybe it's just by default almost because of how good the starting pitching has been. Eddie Rosario will face Drew Pomerantz to start the 10th. Rosario 0 for 3. Squaring the bunt, takes a breaking ball up and in. One rookie everyday player, Miguel Sano, came through with a big sacrifice fly, a go-ahead fly ball. As you look at the revised Oakland defense. And now another rookie everyday player, Eddie Rosario, trying to get aboard to start the 10th. There's a fastball and a strike, 2-1.
Well, you knew it wasn't going to be a perfect year. It's impossible for anybody to have that kind of year, but Glenn Perkins finally, and it was a wounded quail kind of swing that did him in there, but now the Twins are still in position to win a ball game, and it's an important win for them, coming back and battling.
Rosario hitting .265 against left-handers. Count is 2-2. seen Rosario kind of step in the bucket against Pomerantz in that at bat. He ends up striking out, 1 down. Haven't seen that too much from Rosario. Well, look at that front foot. Kind of opens up.
Now batting, number 32.
I think it's more a case where he's looking in, and you can't really do that. You can't afford it, but off left-handers sometimes you tend to open up from that glove side.
1 down, and now Aaron Hicks. A single in 3 trips. Strike on the outside corner. Pomerantz, former starter, 8 starts before being relegated to bullpen duty. Hicks checks his swing and takes another strike. 0-2.
Twins are 4-3 in extra inning games. The A's are 1-6.
Probably contributing some to that 1-run game total. Looked like they might win a rare 1-run game. Then it looked like they were going to lose another one, and instead we have a 10th inning. 2 strikes, and Hicks gets a piece and fouls it over the screen. Mujica warming up. Another foul to the screen. Twins with just 6 hits. Hicks has 1 of them. He may have hit the hardest ball against Scott Kazmir tonight. A solid single in the 5th. Suzuki on deck. Melvin sitting next to Mike Aldretti on the coaching staff. Hicks takes 1-2. Center, and Smolinski's out there for the catch out number 2. That'll bring up Suzuki.
Second half of the year here, and we're only a small sample size with this being the second game, but the bottom 3 in the lineup just hasn't had a lot of run production.
Suzuki with a couple of outfield flies and a ground ball double play.
For 3 in yesterday's game.
And Suzuki takes down and away, ball 1. Suzuki could hit the ball as hard as he wants. He won't get it by between Laurie and the line at third base.
If he does, man, that's going to be a hard hit ball. 1 step away from third baseline.
And Suzuki takes high, 2-0. Laurie hustling down the line and beating out an infield hit. Key play for the A's when they got their tying run in the bottom of the 9th. 2-0. Right to Laurie at third base. And Pomerantz has a 1-2-3 top of the 10th. Like the Twins are in danger of losing a tough 1-0 ball game, but they struck for a pair in the ninth.
Yeah, Joe Mauer was able to lift the ball just out of the reach of Josh Reddick, scoring Brian Dozier. And then Sano does the same thing, lifts the ball. Shane Robertson pitch runs for Torrey Hunter, and Sano is able to drive in the go-ahead run. Glenn Perkins comes in, throws a wild pitch that advances the runner, Brett Laurie, and then Smolinski, just a little wounded quail over out of the reach of the shortstop, and Laurie comes around to score the tying run. First blown save of the year for Glenn Perkins, and we're all tied up here in the bottom of the 10th inning. Casey Fiend coming in to pitch for the Twins now.
He'll face Burns, Vogt, and Zobrist. Burns, an infield hit, an outfield fly, a comebacker to the mound, and a strikeout. Never faced Casey Fiend before. Plouffe in on the grass at third. Mauer even with the bag at first. It's popped up, and Trevor will track it, but have no play.
It just amazes me that that ball was in fair territory. That's 20 rows deep in most ballparks. Not that either Escobar or Plouffe had a chance to catch that ball, but tremendous amount of foul territory here at this ballpark in Oakland.
One strike to Burns. Important for Fiend to keep his speed off the bases. Swing and a miss.
Right there, there's not a lot that Burns can do with that pitch. Above his hands, inner half of the plate. That was a great location of a fastball for Casey Fiend. See if Kurt Suzuki recognizes it or if he has something else on his mind. Come right back in.
And off the plate, 1-2.
Dunsing now up and throwing in the Twins bullpen.
Off the plate, 2-2.
Dunsing threw an inning and a third in last night's game. Struck out one, no hits.
Full count. Blaine Boyer came out of the pen and walked the leadoff man Semien in the 8th inning. Ryan O'Rourke did a nice job keeping it a 1-0 game at the time. Full count to Burns. And fouled away. At a juncture in the season where they just got to start winning series, and a lot of them in a row. They need to have the type of month the Twins had second half of April and through the month of May. 3-2 to Burns. That's hit to right center field. Hunter across, or excuse me, that's Rosario across. Hicks with a throw, and Burns is in with a leadoff double. Burns to the gap in right center field, and the winning run is at second with nobody out.
Well, he got the same look, pitch after pitch after pitch from Casey Fiend. Another fastball, and this one he dropped the head of the bat on it, found a gap, and we know how well Billy Burns can run. Rosario doing what he could, Hicks cutting it off and making a nice throw, but Burns easily getting into second base, and he's got it cooking here down the bottom of the 10th inning.
Vogt the batter. He's 0 for 4. Half foul on strike. Vogt will strike out about one every 4 times. He struck out his last time up. Facing O'Rourke. Kept throwing and breaking pitches and finally took a little bit off a breaking pitch and got a swinging strike 3. Burns to third base. Suzuki's throw. Safe.
That's a huge 90 feet right there. It's taking a gamble. You never want to make the third out at third base.
Twins will take a look at it in the dugout.
You didn't see Trevor Plouffe jumping up, and a lot of times he can sense it.
Boy, I don't know. The left hand.
Yeah, you're going to have to see a different angle here. They need to slow it down so he can see. And if an umpire gets to see it at that speed, you know why they make the calls they do. The call's not going to challenge it.
Infield in. And the outfield will have to come in. Hicks is still playing a standard center field. Now he comes in. Outside. 1-2. Fiend desperate for a strikeout. Base hit left field, and the A's will win a one-run ball game. 1 in the 9th and 1 in the 10th. Scott Kazmir did not get the win, even though he was brilliant tonight. The Twins with a couple of runs in the 9th inning to take a lead, but for the first time this year, Glenn Perkins unable to convert a save opportunity. And Vogt just taking a pitch away from him, driving it hard to left field. And Burns scampers home. And the A's are now 9 and 22 in one-run games. Tom had them in the Twins with a nice comeback in the 9th, but they couldn't hold that one-run lead and ended up losing it in 10.
Dick, a tough turn of events for the Twins tonight. And coming up next on Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink, we'll talk about the A's walk-off win in the 10th tonight. The pitchers duel. We'll hear from Paul Maladum. We'll preview the series finale.